Hello, and welcome to our first speculation video on Jurassic World Evolution 2, where today we'll be going over my estimated list over the new creatures in Jurassic World Evolution 2. So, yeah, without further ado, I guess, we'll continue. So, starting on the list, we're going to start with, large carnivores and go down the list, not in any particular order at all, just, these are just things I thought might be likely to be in the game. So the first one we have is Utaranus, which I think would be quite a cool way to introduce feathered dinosaurs into Jurassic World Evolution games. In an interesting way because everyone loves large carnivores, right? I guess. And then there's Titan, which obviously is in Prehistoric Kingdom and is probably because of that going to be much more popular in the coming year or two. And then we have Irritator, who is a personal favourite of mine from playing obsessive amounts of Dinosaur King when I was little. And then there's also another one which I think might be quite likely is Gorgosaurus, because it seemed weird to me that it wasn't in the original game due to it, being in Walking with Dinosaurs, the movie, which was, I think, relatively popular. It wasn't very good, but people saw it anyway. So, yeah, I've kept the list for large carnivores quite small because there's not too much to say for those. They'll add loads, but they're all relatively the same. There's nothing that's going to, break the mold as it comes to them. So, moving on to small carnivores. Yeah, this list is a bit longer because I thought in the first game, especially before any of the DLCs, it was quite lacking in this area. Like, you only had the Dilophosaurus, Deinonychus, Velociraptor, and I think that's it, actually. Yeah, that was it, and that was all you had for until basically the Carnivore DLC. So I thought they might like to add a few more in this, just to pad it out, because they're quite a versatile, dinosaur to use. Put them in different types of enclosures, especially with, medium to large herbivores if you want to do that, and with large carnivores, because they are compatible in the first game and probably compatible in the second game too. So to start the list, I wanted to go with Gualong, which is quite an obscure dinosaur, I'm pretty sure, but I'm quite a fan of its appearance with the big, almost parasaur like nasal crest sort of thing. And yeah, the next dinosaur I think might be interesting would be Utahraptor and Pyroraptor. I'm gonna clump them together because while both of them are quite similar to Velociraptor, I think it would add more variation within that specific area of in that specific area of raptor. Like in the first game, you had Velociraptor, and then the closest thing was the tadpole dinosaur that was Deinonychus. That will obviously be changing in Jurassic World Dominion with its new design and all, but Utahraptor and Pyroraptor might be quite interesting ways to differentiate them further. Also, it might be quite a good jumping point again to get more feathered dinosaurs into Jurassic World Evolution and Evolution 2, I mean. So, moving on from that, Monolophosaurus, which I think is almost a pretty much guarantee now it has been in Camp Cretaceous. I know they're not doing Camp Cretaceous content, however, it doesn't make much sense to keep it out given that it was so odd it wasn't in the first game to begin with. Uh, so, this next one, which is Dimetrodon, is a bit more speculative. However, I do think it has some merit to be in the game because of the taxidermy we see in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, which has been confirmed to be taxidermy, meaning that InGen did at some point create a Dimetrodon, making it viable to be in Jurassic World Evolution 2 within the lore, and it would also be just quite a cool dinosaur to have, with the big flappy plate on its back. Moving on from that, you have Morse, which is the new feathered dinosaur we've seen in Jurassic World Dominion. I do not think this dinosaur will be in from launch, but I do think it will come roughly 6 months after launch in a Jurassic World Dominion DLC, and that's the same for Oviraptor as well, which we've seen in the leaks. Both of those, I think, will be added in Jurassic World Dominion DLC, but, you know, I just thought I'd include them anyway, just to add them to just to pad out the list a bit more. Of course, onto that, we also have Coelophysis, which, you know, we've already seen, so there's not much to add there. Moving on to large/medium herbivores, we have Argentinosaurus, which I included not because it's like a particularly important dinosaur, just because I thought it would be. It's the most obvious one that wasn't included in the first game that could add some variation to the giant herbivore thing. Like, originally it was just Brachiosaurus, Camarasaurus were the main two large herbivores. Actually no, wait. No, it's just Brachiosaurus, I think, was the only huge dinosaur. And I think Argentinosaurus might be able to add to that. Oh, Mamenchiosaurus as well, sorry. I'm forgetting my dinosaurs. Then we also, after that, I think we have Pachyrhinosaurus, which also does seem quite obvious to add, given that it was originally going to be in Fallen Kingdom until some quite last-minute changes, which might actually mean that that Frontier already has a model for Pachyrhinosaurus made. That's just speculation, of course, but it would make it much more likely to be in the game already. Then, moving on from that, we have Plateosaurus, I think that's how you pronounce it, or Platosaurus, that just sounds weird, which is a late Triassic herbivore, or omnivore, I think. But it might be cool to add an omnivore to the game, like that sort of thing. And it's also like, its appearance and movement and all of that is very unique to itself. And it would be a way to add like some new animation and much more variation within large herbivores, which we did start to see near the end of the DLCs, like Nigersaurus and Dryosaurus, which in particular, which was like, yeah, that was a pretty good one. But I just think Plateosaurus might be a good one to add to that. Same thing with Therizinosaurus, which would be a very cool addition, has been asked for since the first game came out, pretty much, but has never been added due to feathers not at all being a part of the Jurassic World and Park lore. But now that feathers are coming in, I think they should be less afraid to add it. And also, just a scaly Therizinosaurus would look really weird, and I don't know why they would ever add that. But now they have the chance to add a feathered one. I think they could do it. Next is Dinochaurus, which is a very similar creature to Therizinosaurus, but it's like a variation within the same animation set, I would imagine it to be. And then there's Wuosaurus on the end. No particular reason, I just like the dinosaur. Then, moving on to small herbivores, we have Zalmoxes, which has been leaked multiple times to have been in the first game, I believe, along with Stegosaurus, which I have forgotten to include on this list. Sorry about that, but yeah, both of those were major, like, speculative things that were going to be added to the first game, but never were, for no real reason as far as I can tell. And then moving on from that, we have Pelecomimus, just to add a bit more variation within the very small herb of, like, the Gallimimus sort of category thing. Then moving on from that, we have three very similar creatures in Microceratus, Psittacosaurus, and Protoceratops, all of which being small ceratopsids. However, I did think they are all like different enough, I think, to include all by themselves, sort of thing. As well as Microceratus being a major part of Jurassic Park lore and being included on Jurassic World website as well, would be a major reason that I think it would come into the game. Moving on to some slightly more speculative, may I say, categories in amphibians. The reason I've included this is because there have been leaks for the game that have been seeming to be, or spoilers by the way, that have been seeming to be right about dinosaurs having the ability to swim. If that is true, it seems strange to me not to include some fan-favourite amphibious creatures like Sarcosuchus, Diplodocus, and Capsosuchus, all of which would be very cool to see in the game. Right, especially Capsosuchus. It would be just so cool to see a four-legged, like, long-legged crocodile just pouncing on a goat or whatever. That would just be awesome to see. Yeah, just all of those would be really cool to see. There could obviously be different ones. This was just more of a point of amphibians maybe being in the game in the first place. Don't get your hopes up. This isn't at all confirmed by Frontier. This is just an entire wild leap by me. Take it with a bucket full of salt, pretty much. Yeah, moving on from that, we have Paleocene creatures, which I think they may include, mainly because of, in the same scene that we see the, wait, no, why have I done this? I've added Dimetrodon already, so sorry. Yeah, Moschops might also be quite a good one to add to the game. That could be quite interesting to see, just for some more Paleocene, like, variation again, just to see. That would just be quite cool to see little Moschops running about. Yeah. Now, that's us done for the land creatures, but I will move on to aquatic and flying reptiles that I think may be the most likely ones to be added to the game. So, starting with aquatic creatures. Yeah, so this is my list of the things that I think would be most likely, mainly to do with how popular they are as a creature. So, Mosasaurus, we already know, is 100% confirmed to be in the game by the trailer, by the devs, all of that stuff. It's in the game, and we know that. Then, these five are just ones I think would make sense to be in the game, basically. So, first one would be Megalodon, everyone loves Megalodon. There's been movies about it, there's been, yeah, it's just quite a well-known thing, you can get its teeth in any shop in England, yeah. So, moving on from that, you have Ichthyosaurus, which I think would be a very cool one to have in the game, just because it would be the only one out of this list that would be nimble, and it'd be like a prehistoric dolphin sort of thing. And then moving on from that, you have Plesiosaurus, slash like Elasmosaurus, that sort of thing. I think that's another probably 100% thing, and that it would make very little sense for them to not include something of that type. Yeah, I just think that would be a weird thing for them not to include. And then moving on from that, we have Liopleurodon, which is obviously a fan favourite from Walking with Dinosaurs, even though that's completely inaccurate. But Jurassic World isn't known for that anyway, so it's debatable whether it would be his actual size version or the monster they show in Walking with Dinosaurs, because the Mosasaurus is also a bit of a monster. They could be friends together, I guess. Just sit in the Abomination Club. And then moving on from that, you have Dunkleosteus, which would be no, it wouldn't be the only fish. It would be the only armored fish I could see them adding to the game, and because it's very well known as being it's the most well known not dinosaur creature of its time period. I think, throughout, I want to say the Devonian period, maybe later. Dunkleosteus is pretty much one of the only one that people it's the only one that's commonly known. And it's also just really cool to have a giant bone crushing fish. That'd be pretty dope. Yes, so moving on to the pterosaurs that I think might be in the game. Obviously, Pteranodon, that's confirmed, the source, all that is screenshots. Then I think Tapijawa would be the second, would be very likely, because it's quite there's not huge amounts of variation within pterosaurs, but I think Tapijawa is quite a big variation, so it's big enough to be added, is what I think. And it's also quite a fan favourite from things like Primal Carnage and other stuff, and other games and films and all that. And moving on from that, I think Tropognathus, which is quite obscure, but it's quite a differentiated, again, from Pteranodon, and some people stan it quite a lot from, Jurassic World, the game, and all that. Moving on, I think the second most likely one, like the most likely one excluding Pteranodon, would definitely be Dimorphodon. Because it's been in the movies, it's been in the TV shows, it's been everywhere, but we haven't seen it in the game yet, so technically I have to add it to this list. Then moving on from that, we have Ramphorhynchus, which is again quite a small um, pterosaur, but again, it would be quite cool to see in the game. There's not too much I can say about these because pterosaurs aren't really my expertise area in description, and they're a lot more obscure than a lot of the aquatic reptiles. But I hope, like, if you want to go research them, you can, I guess. And then moving on from that, we have Quetzalcoatlus, which I think is definitely going to be in the game at some point. However, it won't, like Moros and Oviraptor, it won't be in the game from launch because it's in Jurassic World Dominion. I think the same is true for some already established creatures as well, like Iguanodon and Gigantosaurus. Both of those I do not believe will be in the game from release, but will be added in Jurassic World Dominion DLC later down the line. Same is true for Quetzalcoatlus, I believe. So, yeah, that is my list. Yeah. If you disagreed with any of that, please let me know in the comments in some strongly worded ways. If you want to go follow me on Twitter, there's a link in the description. Yeah, like, subscribe if you feel like it. You can always undo both of those things at any point. I'll be trying to upload more Jurassic World Evolution 2 news. Schedule will change, of course. Like, yeah, schedule will change around my personal life and all that stuff, but I should try and get at least 2 videos a week done speculating about Jurassic World Evolution 2 up until its release, and then DLCs and Prehistoric Kingdom and all the other stuff when it gets closer, as the year goes on. So yeah, cool. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video, hopefully.